were just getting bought by Oracle. But, life goes on. You got to, hitch a ride on the Galaxy and move on. So more than 50% of our employees work from home. So, and our sales force is particularly distributed. So even more so, than the rest of the organization. And so the past way of them knowing how to sell a really complex set of offerings. So we've got offerings that range from software to hardware, so much stuff that no one person can really get to know all of. So they tend to focus on a few things that they like to sell and go out and sell those. So what would happen is marketing would create the how many slide presentation? 100 slide presentation at least. And then they would get on a plane and go around the world and hold sessions and hope that salespeople would come. And of course, salespeople would figure out, I think I need to get a root canal that day, when the guy is in town. And so would have some excuse for not showing up at the local office on the day that they might make it in to learn. And then once they're gone, then it's on a web portal for marketing, so you can go pull down presentations. One of my favorite moments is when somebody I'm on the management committee, and somebody raised their hand and said to the head of marketing at the time, we don't have a good golden pitch to just go out that just succinctly tells the story about product X. And he says, what are you talking about? We have over 40,000 slides available on the marketing site. In all sincerity. And the guy goes, that's the problem. So even though there's a lot of stuff out there, I mean, when anybody ever says to me, hey, it's just on the website, I feel like strangling people. Because it's so hard to find stuff on websites now, right? It's, there's just so much information on there. And then my favorite are the 10-point font websites, where you're strolling through. And as Charles is fond of saying, we tend to use our own search engines inside organizations on the internet, and they super suck. For the most part. So most people really hate their search engine, and it's delivering up content that's dated. I was in China, and I was going to, we were meeting with a government official, very, 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 very senior government official. And somebody said, you have to give them a gift. And I said, okay, well, let's look through all the policies and see. So we pulled up the policy, got it done, and read the policy. And I said, this doesn't feel quite right to me. So we made a phone call, and I said, well, how did you find that? And he said, it was on your website as your most recent thing. So I would have broken the law if I had, or at least company policy, if I had followed what was, on the web. And it's only because, I had my faithful Leah look it up and go see what we can do. So Sales University is our application, and prior to having it, there wasn't really a comprehensive approach to sales development. And when Charles came in, unfortunately he faced 8 LMSs across Sun, 3 competency management systems, and on and on and on. Some SCORM compliant, some non-SCORM compliant. It was just a lot of manual reporting. That didn't even begin to reflect everything that was sitting in Excel spreadsheets for business ops people who were tracking organizations. And there were a lot of competency gaps that we were having to deal with. So, what Joe and his team worked on was a whole approach to the Sales University. And we had some really interesting discussions on this because Joe is kind of radically into, it's got to make a difference in the business results. And I said, yeah, but we got to talk to them in the language that they understand. So they think of us as learning. So he kind of went kicking and screaming into the metaphor of a sales university, but it's no university in any traditional sense. So it's only a way of being able for people to easily recognize you are here because it's a familiar map to them. But it includes a whole set of governance processes around it. Many learning functions or CLOs set up an advisory board for the whole function. We don't do that. We set them up for each major business area. And we set up our advisory boards that way. And we let them have the funding, and they fund us quarterly. And so all of that, for all of the funding that was coming from other people over the last year, we've received no decline in revenue or in funding. It was only the middle funding that we had that was part of the corporate amount that got slashed. some really interesting Web 2.0 ways for them to think about that. And it's led to the focus that we've had, is on accreditation. So what we have said is essentially, except for a few core courses, we don't care how you learn. Learn any way you want to, but you must pass the test. And you must document a behavior, and that behavior is documented by your manager. That behavior for salespeople is usually that you incorporate something in an account plan. So it's sitting in Siebel or Salesforce.com, whichever system they're on. And then the third thing they must do is actually make a sale. And then we document those sales, and they become part of our record of how much we're helping affect the overall business. And you don't get an accreditation until you do all three. So you have to do all three to get an accreditation. So what it's caused us to do is focus on what's the actual behavior that we want out of the organization, and then enable that behavior to happen. But it doesn't always have to happen through courses. Now, do we create courses? Yes. But interestingly, because we created this peer-to-peer learning platform, many of the people are learning either from each other, or then our instructional designers are going out and finding the best of the content that other people have developed and piecing that together into a course. So we've drafted an army of volunteers. And it's, as I said, I'm going to skip this to say that because the takeaway is focus on the results, not the training. And then, of course, they each get to have in their record what their level of accomplishment is, since it's tied back into an HRIS system. Now you know somebody who's made a sale in a specific content area, where they're located, what languages they speak, so that you can start to put together win teams, for example. We're just now doing that in the Services University as well. So now you can say, who knows how to repair product X, which may have been completely off the sell list for 5 years. So now you can find somebody that's accredited in it. And then we have different levels as well. By the time you get to expert, the behavior might be give back to the community. So go back in and share in peer-to-peer learning platforms that we've created, ways to give that. And it uses a whole bunch of technologies and so on, which I'm going to turn over to Charles, but including a mobile platform. So as I've mentioned with Victor, so he's an example of that, where he's getting most of his learning and doing most of his things on his iPhone. So with that,